So, I think that we've had several interesting hours where we have discussed all of these cognitive aspects and the role of AI. Kaspars already stated your official titles, but if the audience sees that I am very up close and personal with these people, it's just because we've already collaborated and know each other very well and worked on questions regarding media literacy. So maybe in the beginning I would like for each of you to tell us, first of all, what you do in the field of media literacy, and in addition, recently, has anything that we've discussed here, for example, AI, has it come into your work? Does it concern you? Is it a challenge? So maybe we could paint this general picture and we could find out what could be done. So, Agnese, yes, could you start? Yes, Gunta, I agree with you that I feel like with a group of close friends, because we've done a lot together and the Latvian community has worked together a lot. We're a small, close-knit community and we've become familiar with each other quite often. When we started working on media literacy in 2016, we started this media literacy initiative and we made this master's program and developed quite important research and created a branch of lifelong education, and I've worked with that personally quite a lot, and I've been in several trainings organized by international organizations in the Baltics. I have several certificates, and I could say that my life has taken me to work with a lot of libraries, and that's many thanks to Emīls. And then this competency for librarians to actually be the ones that make people more capable within media literacy. So essentially I work with the people who will be training other people in media literacy later on. And in addition, there are schools and pupils, because considering the situation, how we develop media literacy in Latvia, how we integrate it, or better yet, not integrate it in the educational curriculum, teachers are very glad that there are people who have these trainings that they can give to pupils. There's a new face in front of the classroom, so that's something I work in. And on AI, of course, it is a question recently that has been asked a lot about. And we see a new technology, and of course it will erase everything in its path that stood before. And I see that we're going through this process, and actually there's a lot of shortcomings in understanding what the story in general is. So I would like to say that we don't really have to talk about, yes, there's this AI and these all new opportunities, because we've had AI for decades. I don't remember when the first AI tools were created, these other generative tools. It seems that it's a new world that has been discovered, but we're thinking that we should understand everything as quickly as possible. But we today already mentioned what we should talk about is this ethical and responsible use. And for example, there was just a training for pupils in the school. The teachers said that the pupils said that they will create a video where I will be saying that I hate working at school and I can't wait to retire, but they still haven't managed to make one. So we have to quickly talk about what we can do with these tools, because we understand better and better what this new situation is and what's the potential risk behind it.
Thank you. Thanks to Agnese too. I will be continuing her topic. I represent the National Library, but the area of libraries as such. The National Library in this picture of media literacy has been involved since 2015. When we participated in creating guidelines for media literacy. And the position that I am in for 2 years is the expert of project cooperator of media literacy was opened in 2016. So now for some years we have been taking care of this, and also Agnese also knows that our library is highly interested in this topic because our events are being, people come to our events, people are very interested in these events, both online and in person. So also about this artificial intelligence, but we can't say that AI in the libraries is like has opened the door and has come through every door. It's not really like that. They are cautious in the libraries still, and we are also still cautious about that. But it is clear that the next year might be the year when AI comes in more into our areas, and also in libraries including. But we will definitely work. All libraries will work on what was said before. Not to be afraid of what to do, but how to incorporate it and then use it for our benefit. Also today, when I was driving, when I was driving here, I was reading what was happening in the USA. In Stanford University, since 2018, they have AI laboratories and studies. Hopefully I know it correctly, but no one has lost a job there. It helps with catalogs, with collections, and also with the media literacy. So for librarians it will be very, very, very My name is Sandra Sprudzāne. I represent Rezekne Technology Academy. At our academy, we started media literacy studies in a different level. And one of the audiences we concentrate on is teachers. Since we saw this gap in the education of teachers, as they participated in seminars and discussions, we saw that this is the area that still lacks some input. So we have to talk about media literacy. So this is how I started cooperating and was interested in creating materials for schools and teachers. Agnese already talked about the areas we are working in. I would like to step back into the future and tell you my personal story. A while ago, I was involved in the project you all know, School 2030, and I was representing media literacy topics. I was working with teachers, and again I saw this vital need to talk about this topic and the lack of materials. So I started studying the art of teaching, and this is where I also studied media literacy more to involve it into teachers' work. And both these studies and my interest about media literacy led me to the next step. Currently, I, together with teachers and people who work with languages. We develop books about how I see the impact of media literacy and AI. We see questions about how to define it. A year ago, we made a chapter about the language of Latvian language in technologies, and now we see that terms have to be changed. Some have to be added, and we are having discussions about whether teachers have heard it, whether they understand it, whether it's new, and we face new problems. Basically, there is no single definition. A wider definition, yes, AI is one of the terms, which is pretty clear, but then there are other terms. So now we have to talk about AI literacy. So this is a challenge for media literacy. So I really see a lot of challenges in this area. And as I said, I am more interested in the pedagogical aspect and how this content is being given to schools and to teachers. Hello. First of all, thank you all for your patience, for being so long here. I work at the University of Latvia Communication Department, work in the Excellency Center of Latvian Excellency Center, and I have been in the field of media literacy since for 9 years. So how has it changed me as a teacher? I have to say it's pretty substantial. It is another area where I have to follow everything that is new and stay up to date and learn myself. And for students, students find this topic very interesting. You already know there are deepfake accounts with various celebrities, and students analyze them, view, watch comments, make various studies, whether people can understand if a video is fake or real. So this is also an interesting topic for students. And also when I worked with the Ministry of Culture, with the Latvian schools, there was also one of the topics. It was AI synthesized content, and when we start talking about, everyone wakes up and everyone is very interested about it. But in the end, I would like to remind you what was said before. AI is not only ChatGPT or similar apps. Basically, internet algorithms and various technologies have already been used before. And I will tell you a short story that changed my point of view. And I found it out at the University of Washington in 2021. You can also find this article in the media about how Amazon, this huge sales giant, they decided that it is good, that they should find a way to select employees. And they created a system in which they select the ones that would work for them. But this is the way that in which the AI is being trained. So they used their existing CVs. So what the system did, the system took out women, so they understand that they have to remove the gender. But what did the AI did? Then they took out the people who have been studying at the women's university. So basically what I want to say that is that AI has a lot of preconceptions which should be changed. So it creates or selects information based on preconceptions. So you work a lot in the education area. Sandra was already talking about it. Maybe she will continue. She was involved in School 2030. The story is about the thing that there are very many opinions, including critics, about how to integrate, but everything depends on the teachers and how they work. But actually, media literacy is both good and bad. And this is something that we have to face every day. This is disinformation, algorithms, and again, something new comes in every day. But how to find a system and how to make it formal, because general education is formal. Yes, education, just because education is formal, it is not so easy to integrate media literacy in the content, because there is a certain framework in which a teacher is working. So probably there is a lack of knowledge of how to incorporate this topic or these topics in the content. Of course, there are teachers who work with that. We can't say that everything is bad. There are teachers who have been working with these methods and techniques. They demonstrate the latest examples about videos and other topics. I wouldn't say that everything is very bad. But there are some teachers who are passive. They don't really work with this new approach. I wouldn't like to call it new. But I would say that the problem is in the educational system, because then we would have to change the entire system. We started the project 4 years ago and new standards were developed. What I was trying to do and what I can say what there really is, in the Latvian language there is a topic, the media language and impact, where there are both requirements about what children should know, and there is this information and content. Teachers are still not using this terminology quite as often as they should. There is, as I said, a lack of knowledge. They are not able to express themselves as much as they would like to. But I can see that if a teacher still says media literacy in the wrong way, pronounces it wrongly, I see that there is a problem. I will add a short note about teachers. There is something that I have always been standing up for. It is about the systems of how to teach and train teachers. It depends on sponsors, on programs, activity. Sometimes projects simply end or other hindrances happen. But this is clear that we can't change the standard every year. They have to find a common idea of what to write in the educational standards, but we have to understand what we should give to teachers. There is interest in various towns, but we can't offer as much, because not all teachers can come to these courses, and also these courses are limited in time. So we should look at a more systematic way of training teachers. And then maybe there are several topics that could be combined in ways where teachers could learn new knowledge.
Klinta already perfectly said what I wanted to say, and I've learned a lot from the previous presentations. In the morning I was interviewed by the Radio of Latvia in the morning program, and we're talking about the lack of media literacy, and we don't have it, but in my opinion we don't speak enough of it. In our modern world we have to constantly keep on learning, because media literacy isn't like riding a bike. You learn it as a child, and then 20 years later you could try again and it's going to be the same. So there's no muscle memory in media literacy. There are completely different mechanisms here. And neuroscientists and psychologists in these previous presentations and in panel discussions already said that the brain is very lazy. So it shows that we can relearn certain things that are deep inside us, and Martin Spredels already said this. The self-reflection is very important. How many of us are ready to start examining yourself and to the core and to understand what can we do, not only just seeing what the facts are. And when meeting these groups, it's almost like a small shot. I give them an hour, it's very interesting, we discuss everything and we have a good laugh, but that ends eventually, and what happens after that? And as we saw in the presentation, John already showed that we have this effect for a while, but if there is this new intervention, things go about their old ways. And that's the problem. That's something that Klinta already stressed about, the funding, about the availability, about the not understanding and the lack of systemic changes. And yes, I can agree that we don't have a state media literacy strategy, and I think Finland is the perfect example with a good strategy, but I wanted to talk to Emīls. So Emīls, through librarians you have access to a broader part of society. So what do you see are the methods, the things that help librarians work with very different audiences? So you might have seniors, minorities, people from lower social classes. So what helps you when working with these different audiences? Well, it's a good question, because well, why we work with librarians? Well, it is because teachers work with their classrooms, and these are the people that he can reach out to. But the librarian works with his or her readers. So, as you said, all ages, all genders, all social backgrounds. So that's why we educate them with the idea in mind that they will pass this information and knowledge on to their readers. And what definitely helps them is that the librarian themselves, well, of course, working in this field, I'd like to say this is one of the more human professions. And when we talk about the competencies that a librarian needs, well, they are very extensive. Of course, a library is not just a place where you come and read a book. It's a place of culture. It's a place where you can talk to the librarian about life in general, especially now with this municipal planning. We have libraries as municipal client centers, so there's many competencies involved here. And oftentimes we almost bother them with this media literacy. Come on, get this into your work, which is already not well remunerated. And of course, there's a lot of readers in these larger libraries. So we want to motivate them, and we have a project named Media Literacy Masters, where we work with a smaller group of librarians, but who are very motivated. So we have the second renewed year, because it used to exist previously, but now we boosted its quality, and this first study year just concluded, and 23 librarians graduated. So we met once a month for 7 months. We had lectures and seminars with Agnese and Klinta being the lecturers, and the result was, of course, they had to put this knowledge into practice and create, for example, an event. And so these 23 people created an event for 1,013 people, so we could see how they reach out to these audiences, and these approaches were different as well. So people just knew that people would come, some other had to reach out to people to come. And one example has stayed in my mind where one librarian wanted to have young people talk about media literacy. So she went to a social housing. And it was actually the first time that they even considered that they could think of media critically, and the first time I even thought of the concept of media literacy. So this humanness is very important here, and just to find the time to integrate this media literacy in their work is hard. So we try to work with librarians who are especially motivated, and we will try to create more quantitative events, for example, online seminars where there's larger interest, for example, 400 people connecting. We don't know how many people are actively listening, how many just put it on in the background, so we're just trying to explain, as we have today done several times, that media literacy is not just one box, one thing that you go to a seminar and now you're media literate. It's a constant work, because the librarian's work is a work that deals with information. So again, that's one thing, but of course another thing is, for example, salaries, time, energy, etc. And I would like to ask Klinta, so one of the groups that you have worked with and paid extra interest to is elderly people. And sometimes it seems that our society is quite ageist, and they think that elderly people don't know anything. So what is the possible approach we can take when working with senior citizens, and what we should teach them? Do you think of AI or broader on media literacy? But of course AI is a part of it. Well, with senior citizens, I had this wonderful opportunity to have an in-person seminar in Limbaži, Valmiera, and in Riga in the Senior Society in 2021, so which was one of the spike moments of the pandemic. But still, we had the opportunity to meet them in person. So, and even in that moment, I already understood and brought with me, thinking about other projects on elderly people, that it is such a diverse audience. For young people, we could think 95% of them are on smartphones. Well, for senior citizens, might have just this local newspaper or ones that just watch the TV news. And there are some who even call FaceTime people, for example, 20 times a day, or post on Facebook. So they're so diverse, and it's really hard during one seminar to give them knowledge that will be useful for everyone. So there are some people who have these old button phones, and you're talking about social media algorithms and deep fakes, and they have never even seen such things, and so it doesn't interest them that much. But then again, there is a range of people with more advanced knowledge, and it's boring for them to talk about sensational headlines and evaluating them. So this elderly population audience has to have a more selective grouping. And there was new research on Ukrainian senior citizens' media literacy, which was recently presented. And in the time frame from 60 to 70, they have different digital skills and different interests they have for the internet, which differs greatly from the people aged 75 plus. So the media literacy for elderly people isn't as successful because they're so diverse. And some people can't even physically access this media, for example, shaking hands or poor vision. And this recent research was done with digital fraud, and one woman had poor vision, and she knows where to press the answer call button, but she doesn't see who's calling, so she can't see if there's a number that she doesn't recognize, so there's a higher risk for her. So, shortly to sum up, what we should do is to teach them to keep their minds cool. And oftentimes there are fraudsters who want to quickly take action. You should tell the elderly that nothing will happen if they take it slow. And I would also wish them courage, because a lot of them are afraid to go on the internet. They are afraid to be defrauded, and in this way they deny themselves the positive aspects of the internet. And lastly, I want to mention the research. There was a correlation between seniors' social media usage and media literacy, and you will think, how are these things related? Well, the relation is such. There are seniors with higher media literacy. When they use social media, they can decrease loneliness by being on the internet, but with seniors who have lower media literacy, even if they spend a lot of time on the internet, their sense of loneliness even increases. So this is another aspect that we haven't taken a look at in terms of media literacy. But media literacy can be important in our emotional well-being, so we know how to use the internet for our benefit and not just doom scrolling. And here I wanted to add our experience when working with elderly people in libraries. In the beginning of last year, we symbolically took the relay baton from the previous organization that was responsible for informing seniors, and we wanted to pass the message on how to inform seniors on media literacy, and we wanted to take it to the regions, to the rural areas. So we took over what the Ministry of Culture had started with this elderly people's societies, and there was this seniors union representative who came to speak to the library to talk about her experience with fraud and fake news. And that was our common approach, how to increase these dimensions or to broaden these dimensions that they already knew about in terms of media literacy. These seniors talked about what they can see on the internet, about calls, about letters, etc. And so there's this other dimension, which was this media side. We invited regional journalists. So I think seniors, well, of course, I do not have any data to back this up, but I think seniors are still the ones that consume a lot of regional media, newspapers, radio. So they talked about how news are created, how they work. This was approach how we try to inform these senior citizens. But the other side of the coin is that these were events that took place in person, and those who arrived were already interested and they could arrive. But how do you reach out to people who are harder to reach out? Again, this is another problem. I just wanted to add one more thing about elderly people. So there was a practical example that I faced. So how can AI help an elderly person to use technologies, not only in work, but in general? And one thing was virtual assistants, which are becoming more and more popular, and Klinta already mentioned that this factor of loneliness, which is omnipresent for seniors. So this virtual assistant, you can teach this senior citizen how to use a virtual assistant. I've heard in the libraries have had requests for librarians to help them pay bills and such. And in this practical research, it was mentioned that a virtual assistant can be used as a tool for training elderly people, and in a way it can serve as a social tool as well. Well, I feel that UNESCO hasn't been mentioned for quite a while, so that's why I wanted to add one more thing. What we're discussing now has already this media literacy cities concept. So we see that not only academic staff as us are involved, but this overall community around the person supports this media literacy increase. So these societies, unions, and different organizations, and of course in other age groups and these youth groups and clubs and extracurricular activities, these media literacy questions can be woven into them. And something that I've seen quite a lot is that in Latvia people definitely need to be more courageous and talk about their experiences, because sometimes we have these abstract experiences. Well, imagine this situation, such and such and such. But if there's a real person who says, I was defrauded, I took the bait. So these are very powerful tools how we can help. Because we are taking this technological impact at the same time. There's no wise elder who can we ask for advice. So we are all gaining this experience and learning. So this is something very important tool that we're not only lecturers, but we're also doing this mutual exchange.
I have another question. We are talking about those with whom we can work, who can be convinced, who are in the gray area or maybe in the bright area. But what to do with those who are very disinformed in the area of disinformation? I have in the countryside. I have my neighbors. He helps, and I was calling him, talking about local stuff, and he said, I saw you on the television, you were talking about something about disinformation, but you were so wrong about everything. And I saw that he has gotten into these YouTube algorithms. Would have, if I had to tick all the boxes, he would be there. He is one of these disinformation victims. And I could only agree with him, because I have to understand that we are still neighbors. He helps me, but what to do with the group? Do we try to work with those with whom we can work and let them be? Do you have any solutions? There is no simple answer. I can't provide one, but I can give you an example. First of all, we can't reach 100%. This is just an illusion. Let's reach those who we can reach. So we can use various, I would say, for example, in the youth, we can use some game elements. For example, escape rooms with pictures that are real, or AI-generated pictures, information reliability. We have to use this gaming element. And also, for example, study courses. This is one of the courses of IREX program. The final work, they have to develop an education material in media literacy. And I think it was interesting that AI was used to inform youngsters that, for example, in dating apps there can be used AI-generated images. They were real pictures taken from picture banks, and then there was a AI generated picture, and they had to choose swipe right or left to go to a date or not to go to a date. And do you know the results? AI pictures won. So actually what we see is that people would like to date these AI-generated people. But there are ways to recognize. So this is a way to use it, some entertaining activities. So in the beginning, again, everyone was skeptical, that was something that was closer to their reality and was easier to perceive. And in the end of our conversation, I would like to hear the temperature for the next 2 years. How do you feel? What's going to change? In Twitter there was a tweet, a pessimistic tweet, that in the near 2 years, in the following 2 years, discussions will be a lot of deep fakes and public discussions, and AI will be something that we can't fight with. Let's close this discussion with yes or no. How do you see this? Does this have any prospects? I don't think this is that bad, but of course there will be challenges. It's not something to do within 2 years, but we can save our elections. Sandra, it's now going towards you. Because we are involving media literacy in school, we have to talk about political education. If we see this deep fake about my candidate who is talking about complete nonsense, I have to understand there is something wrong with the background. So this knowledge framework is something to be considered, because this general knowledge, we have to have it, because all this new information comes into some frameworks, but if we don't have any frameworks, this is dangerous. We have to educate ourselves in various areas. If we don't understand anything in the political processes, how government works, if we don't have the concepts and we don't have any general knowledge, this is what we can't work with. I also don't think it is such a disaster. The thing that we can already predict something, it means that we can prepare in a way. So this is an aspect to approach it. And to continue the previous conversation about how to reach those people that are hard to reach, we have to address them. We have to address these problems. We have to find how these problems influence the common folk, remind the basic things. But we as educators and media literacy workers, we have to be welcoming and kind. Try to work with these people and help them. I have always have something to end with. As a society, we should be skeptical but not cynical. Before I came to this seminar, I was reading about AI, about the future, about how the labor market could look, if there are any threats, and what about education. And I got a key word, self-learning. And it came out in many articles about education. Many higher education institutions already use these AI rigs. They translate their study materials in their respective language. And in some way, this real people is replaced by a machine. There is some concern, but I have to agree with Emīls. We have to assess and find the balance in the content. And final word to Linda. To answer the question, if there is any danger coming, yes and no. What I am concerned about is several cases in the recent years in our government where people have believed in online calls, or they have turned out to be pranksters who later use this information against Latvia as a propaganda. So yes, also in the common folk, they might also, if they believe it, or video shortages or generations. But I would like to end on a positive note. I was recently at a seminar at Copenhagen University. They were media literacy experts, and an idea from Netherlands was very nice. At the library, they have events that are for first-time voters, for people who are going to vote for the first time, and they hear information about political literacy, and I think it's a nice initiative. Because, as we know, in the 3 years we are going to live in a pre-election atmosphere, because it is coming. So it could be one of the initiatives in libraries or schools or other places that could be introduced to strengthen our media literacy. Thank you all. Thank you, Agnese. Thanks for inviting us. And I hope you heard some new ideas and we could really implement them. Thank you.